Have you ever wondered what statistics you should be tracking inside your business? On today's episode, I'm going to talk about statistics being the necessary evil. That's really going to give you some insight into where to start in that regard. Enjoy.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. Good to have you in the room today. I appreciate your company. If you're in podcast land, welcome. If you're in YouTube land, good to have you. Going to be smashing some bits and pieces on the board again today as usual. Look, if it's your first time in the room with me, I am your general contractor / business coach for general contractors. A bit of a humble servant here, giving as much value as I can. So in the effort or in the endeavor to make your life better, okay, make your business life better. That is for sure. Don't forget, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And get across to elitebusinessadvisory.com. That is my coaching website. A little bit of information there. You can learn about yours truly, but we really want to move the needle in a positive direction as it relates to the established failure rate of general contractors and builders in the world. So let's not be a statistic, folks. Segueing straight into today, statistics are necessary evil. If you've just come off the back of listening to 2 episodes in a row, you're going to be like, mate, not more numbers. You've got to be shitting me. Unfortunately, that is the case. There's 2 things that I've been leaning on pretty hard in the last, say, 3 months. It's funny because I'm in the trenches with you guys. I'm building my own general contracting residential building company, just like you guys. So out of that flows a lot of the, punches in the head and the kicks in the ass and the things that I've got to navigate like you do. And then what I do is I just get on here and I just share a few bits and pieces about what's going on. But the numbers and leadership are the 2 things that I'm really focusing on most recently. I think I mentioned one of the recent podcasts about the audio book that I got, which I've got the hard copy for, but it's a bit old. And John Maxwell was doing the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I really enjoyed that, the breakdown that John shares, to the point where I went, I'm going to go and listen to that again. That was not a hard listen. And I enjoy books like that because it seems like, John's a very articulate person, but he's not complicated. He takes things that are complex and makes them simple, and I appreciate that, okay? Hopefully today, and everything that I do, I try to take something that's complex and I try to make it simple. Doesn't mean you're going to get it first go, but over time it will start to slowly sink in and you'll get it. So again, today, statistics. Now, if you're with me, if you've been with EBA as a past or present coaching client, as a general contractor or a builder, you'll know what the activity key metrics is all about. And it's certainly from 2 years ago when I introduced that, away from the franchising group that I was leading into coaching, it's certainly based on what I've done personally. And of course, what clients have demanded is that's evolved into quite the beast. Okay. And it's quite a useful tool. It's very practical. Again, numbers, statistics, complex, yucky, gross, but really what is enjoyable is when you're able to look at the data, analyze the data, and then be able to make decisions going forward based on that historical data. That is a wonderful moment in time when we get there. Right. So statistics. I think what we're going to, this is what I'm going to do, revenue and target. So your revenue target, okay? And really what that comes down to is that is a numerical. That's numerical, right? Let's not get too complicated. The next thing here, leads conversion and investment. You might think, what's the big deal about investment? Well, if you're going to run scenarios, you're going to need some data to be able to figure out what's the best way to go. Okay, and then the last one here is limitations and the why behind the goal. Okay, so this is really the mechanical part of the biz. Excuse my really bad handwriting. And this is actually the practical. Now, when we're talking about statistics, what we're trying to nail down is ultimately what we're looking for is the behavior of the business. Now, in brackets, what What you don't measure, you can't manage. What you don't measure, you can't improve. So if you don't know you've got a blind spot or a weak spot or a non-performing aspect or department within your business, how do you know that that needs your attention? Well, you don't, because you're not measuring the statistics, okay? So your revenue target must align with your leadership capacity. That's important. Your family priorities, your financial maturity, and operational systems inside your business. Okay, I'll read that again, because I think as I'm reading this out, you were going, no, can't tick that one, no, that's a cross, that's bugger. I got nothing, right? Okay, so don't come to me and say, Max, I want to do $2 million, right? You must align yourself personally and the business environment that which you have to be mapping towards the larger business. Now, you and I are not the people, and we don't operate in such a way today that our business needs to do in 5 years if we are going to hit that revenue target, okay? So, but what you can do, you can't tell me like this. You can't tell me you want to build a $10 million business and you only work 20 hours a week and you're a one-man band and you do handyman work. That's called a misalignment, okay? So, your revenue target must align with these things. Your leadership capacity. I would say that leadership capacity is your ability to lead, which is very much built off the back of your ability to deal with stress and to potentially be really inconvenienced. Okay, that to me is leadership capacity. Family priorities. You know, I've got a wife that is got a ridiculous work ethic, does not complain about anything except me sometimes. Right? And so what you've got is you've got a very pleasant coexistence where I enjoy what I do, she enjoys what she does, we come together when it's needed, but I'm not really messing, I'm very, very cautious to not do anything that's going to upset that personal relationship, okay? So family priorities, I still make time to take my kid to Vancouver and go to football camps, and we've got another one coming up for rugby, you know, so we're just tossing up who's going and whatnot. Might duck across to the island there, and so if you're on the Vancouver Island, let me know. If you're in Nanaimo specifically, I'll come down and see you. We'll do our complimentary coaching session, 30 minutes face-to-face, but you're going to buy the beer, got it? Okay, financial maturity. You gotta have. Now, financial maturity is a really complicated, complex way of saying know your numbers, right? Know where the money's coming from, know what in advance how much money you're going to make, and know what your operating costs are going to be. That's sort of financial maturity, and not getting swept up by big dollars and then you go, wow, I've got so much money, but I couldn't tell you how much of it's mine. Okay, that's financial immaturity. And then operational systems. If you look around your business and you go, I'm going to build a $3 million business or a $5 million business, but I've got no standard operating procedures. It's all in my head. What you're going to do is you're going to bring people into your business. They're going to quickly find out if they're really good people that they're not going to follow you indefinitely. And you don't have any clear way of bringing those people on or onboarding them, okay? If you have no concept of an SOP or a standard operating procedure, you're probably not ready to grow your business. So the revenue target is very much a numerical number, but it also highlights the personal alignment that's got to be brought in and has got to be embraced. You can't just argue the point and go, I'm not going to grow, or I'm not going to learn, or I'm not going to become a better leader. It's why I'm reading books today called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Okay. The next one that's already in the bag is the 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork. Now, why would I be reading those two books? One talks about leadership from my standpoint, what I've got to do and what I need to learn, so that when I turn around and want to bring on a team, the indisputable laws of teamwork, I also understand. So I become a better leader, I become a better recruiter. And when I recruit, because I'm a better leader, people will hang around a little bit longer. Okay? See how that goes together? All right. So, average contract value. So here's what I ask you. If you're trying to figure out your revenue target, what is your average contract value? Okay, and then really, how many jobs can you do in a 12-month, 12-month calendar? If you multiply your average contract value by your realistic job capacity, it'll tell you what your true revenue potential is. So if your average contract values are 10 grand and you want to do $2 million and you're only doing 10 of those, yeah, you get there's a big difference. Like something's up. You're not thinking straight, right? So I'd encourage you to think about before you set a wild target and just go, oh, I've got a dream, right? Good. I'm glad you've got a dream. Let's reverse engineer it so it hits you right in the mouth, the reality of what you've just asked, that you've just told yourself that you want to do. Okay, growth beyond your current capability requires stronger delegation, accountability, and systemization. Okay, stronger delegation, your ability to delegate, which means you've got team, which means you better be able to lead, and you better be understand how to build. You better be able to understand what it takes to build a team. And understand accountability. There is safety in accountability. You know, I had one guy ring me. This friggin' Muppet rings me out of the blue. Not out of the blue. He contacted me on a rock and roll band kind of portal website, Facebook version for rock and roll. And I just said, look, mate, I'm not sending you an email back. Just give me a call. Did it. So anyway, I get a phone call yesterday and no caller ID comes up. So when no caller ID comes up, I kind of automatically think it's the cops, right? I'm like, oh shit, what have I done now? Sure enough, it's this guy. You know, I'm like, oh, no caller ID, mate. That's interesting. Immediately, I don't trust this guy. Immediately. And then I pressed him for a number and he was a bit wishy-washy. See, this is, you know, qualifying is not what we're talking about today, but the minute that no caller ID come up, or the minute that I knew it was this guy and he didn't want me to have his number. I just think that's weird in this, you know, ecosystem of music, the industry. Like trust is just such a big deal. So, and then the fact that he didn't want to give me his number, which is fine. That's fine. But he's ringing me because he potentially is interested in coming as into my band. Well, mate, it's not going to work out well. So, you know, I think that, when we're talking about delegating, if people don't trust us as a leader, it's going to be impossible to build a team. See, a lot of the time I see this too often, is that the building company owners that I chat with think their shit doesn't stink. Now, they'll say things like, oh yeah, I know I've got to change. But 2 minutes down the conversation, all of a sudden they're saying things that actually don't map or contradict that which they said 2 minutes ago. Now, they're not tracking it, but I'm tracking it. You know why? Because whenever there's a misalignment, it smacks me in the face. I'm like, wait a minute, he just said that over there, which is positive, tick, awesome. Over here, he redirected that because of what he said over here there's an inconsistency there. So the trust factor is not there. You and I, as business leaders, need to be worthy of somebody's trustworthy, okay? So growth beyond your current capability. You need to move, you need to shift. Success will not negotiate. It's outside your comfort zone. So you might as well get off your ass and get cracking. Just get used to being uncomfortable. I do, because I know that if I'm out there, I'm a half a chance of success. If I'm in my comfort zone, odds on 100% chance of no success, or very little. So grace under fire is when you go outside your comfort zone, you've got to then have the ability to have grace under fire, because outside your comfort zone is kind of where things are going to get fairly tricky. Okay, you're not going to be comfortable. That's why we call it outside your comfort zone. You're not comfortable. So what that means is you've still got to be gracious. You've still got to think straight. You've still got to be able to delegate. You've still got to be responsible with your finances. You've got to be able to communicate with clients, even though you're under fire. Okay? And I'll tell you right now, this is not the thing that you check it off and go, great, I'm sorted. I've got that in the bag. I don't have to worry about that again. I'm telling you, for someone who's been in the industry now since 1989, has had a builder's license since 2009, it's now 2026. There's things that I'm still doing today that don't align or don't map to what I want to build. And I've just got to give myself an uppercut and go, mate, have a listen to yourself, bro. It's like, you know what? Success goes, okay, pause, hit the pause button. He can go around the mountain a few times, but he ain't going up. He's going to go round. He's not going to go up. So when the student is ready, the teacher then appears. So in other words, when you wake up and smell the roses and understand how important it is to be continuously developing, continuous improvement, right? Not a wasted motion. Every day is an opportunity to learn, right? Put your ego aside and understand this. I expect you to have a level of confidence and a level of humility that is in equal measure. Ego All that does is mask or camouflage insecurity. If you are insecure about something, you have a natural tendency to throw out ego and you're like, that's the cover up. Now, average players won't pick it. They'll just go, I think he's confident. I think he's charismatic or whatever. All that is that is a cover or camouflage for insecurity. Okay, be happy in your skin. Understand when you look, you got to take a smack in the mouth. And that might be just as easy as when you think you've got something sorted and someone says, actually, did you think about that? Because that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. And that's why the result is not what you think it's going to be. Now, if you're insecure, you'll make up excuses. That's what I see all the time. Guys are blaming this, blaming that. Max, you don't understand. You don't get it. You're not in my position. Brah, rah, rah. And then I see them 2 years later and they're doing 25% of the revenue that they were doing when they were with me or under my watch. You know, people of integrity expect to be believed, but when they are not, they allow time to prove them right. And I will tell you right now, I know there's guys out there that are not big fans, both in the coaching industry and in the construction industry. They're not a fan of franchising. I get it, okay? I've been up to my neck in it. I get it. But I will tell you right now, the difference between a successful franchise in the building industry and one that doesn't experience success at high level, I will tell you that it is the jockey. It is the individual. It is the human, okay? So don't go playing the blame game. Don't go blaming the marketplace. Understand, if it is to be, it's up to me to get better. Because what I find hilarious in this town that I'm in, right? And if you're an ex-franchisee of mine in this town, in my town, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Because within 15 months of me and Jed kicking off the business, we are about to move in the next 30 days, all in. By May 31st, we will have signed over $2 million worth of contracts. And yet, in the history of Smith & Sons in Canada, nobody has done that. And they had me doing all their marketing and their branding, all the website, and they couldn't make $2 million. I just say that is a little humble brag, but at the end of the day, it's the jockey, it's you. If I come to your town, I don't care where you are. If I come to your town, I guarantee you within 2 years, if not sooner, we'd be $2 to $3 million. You know why? Because I just know which sticks to pull and which buttons to press and know what to do next, and I know how to sell. Period. See, if you're sitting there and you do more than $2 million or $3 million in business, mazel tov. If you've grown it that far from a standing start like I've done, then mate, you've got something to share with the universe. Share it. But if you have not, then if I could show you what I do at a microscopic level, then it would be worth your while to throw down, instead of buying that new ute or that new pickup truck or that stupid jet ski or that, sled or whatever it is that you've got, I want a freaking pontoon boat. I'm going to wait a year or two for that. Smith & Sons pontoon boat. I think you've just got to invest. See, you'll pay the ignorant tax. You'll either, one way or the other, you'll pay the ignorant tax, right? You'll either pay the money down the track and you'll burn 10 years, or you pay the ignorant tax, or you go, you know what? I'm going to throw down some hard-earned cash and I'm going to put my neck on the line and I'm going to be a bloody good student and I'm going to listen to everything this guy's got to say. Like, for the love of God, right? Why would you not get that in principle? I don't even know why I'm talking about this. I just know this. I am tired of having people make excuses for the lack of success, because all it doesn't bother me one bit, okay? All it does to you is delay the favorable outcome that you deserve. That's it. That is it, mate. That is it. Okay, far out. Rant over. All right. Point number 2, leads conversion and investment. Mechanical. Okay. Revenue target divided by your average job contract value will give you the number of contracts. Get that? Okay. So get your rev target. Okay. So if you want to do $1 million a year and you divide that by your average contract value of say 100 grand, you're going to need 10 contracts. think that's what I was getting at, the number of contracts required. Right. So you just need to go, well, Max, I've never done a $100,000 job in my life. You know, and if you say, well, Max, it's actually a friggin' $10,000 job, now you're at 100. So is a $1 million, around $1 million revenue target actually suitable for you? Probably what's more of a stretch, maybe we've got to, drop this down to, 350K. Now, I don't think at that point you're going to need my coaching. This podcast, mate, I think you'll get it. That'll be plenty, right? You could probably, over time, you could probably get to $1 million and not need any business coaching other than education. You wouldn't need any official business coaching. Once you're at $1 million and you want to go and, 1 to say 5 million plus, now we're getting into the weeds, okay? That's where we're at. Now, are we talking about some more math, right? That lid sucks. We're going to talk about some more math here, right? So things like when you get a lead come in and you monitor that lead, so numbers of leads, right? So if I do this, I'll go numbers of leads to job. The other way is numbers of quotes to job. They're called conversion rates. Okay, I would expect you to have a lead to job minimum 20%. Okay, quotes to job probably 90%. If I get you into a position where we've got pre-construction, I've got 2 of them, valued together cumulatively just shy of $1 million. So that's why I'm so confident, because I'm not just going, I think they're good people and they're going to sign a contract with little old Max. No, when I get a letter of engagement signed and I get deposits for pre-construction, the odds of me pushing that into a project is 90%. Now, if I've said, this job's going to cost you 150 grand, and I come back with a quote at 350, that's going to make up the 10%. You blew it. I blew it. Okay. So be careful on that. So lead to job, 20%, quote to job, probably 90%. Marketing investment. We talk about more math. Okay. Let's talk about, this is conversion rates over here. Let's talk about marketing. 1 to 3% of revenue. Now, this is not negotiable, folks. Do not negotiate that. Minimum, yeah, okay, I'm going to go 1%, fine, cute. Probably not going to be enough. It's going to be 2 to 3, which is going to be where you're going to want to end up. Okay. Now, this fuels predictable growth. Here's an example. So, Jed's looking at what's going on inside of JobTread. He can see what's up. He sees the communication. He says that looks brilliant. Can't wait to get them into pre-construction, because then we start earmarking our project start schedule, okay? When are we going to start? We don't want all of these starting on the same day, same week, same month sort of thing. We want to put some separation between them. He was looking at that going, well, that's really awesome. Does that mean we got a home show coming on March 20 and 21, I think, something like that. It's the Saturday, Sunday. He's like, so we don't need to do the home show. And I'm like, wrong. Because what we're trying to do is build the momentum. So we want to fuel predictable growth. Unfortunately, it's impossible to get it down the middle. It's either famine, where there's not enough work, we've got too many guys, and all we've got to lay guys off and shut our costs down. Or what we've got is we've got an oversupply of work. I'll take the oversupply of work and I will temper that, meter that, manage the expectations of the client, separate that, execute that, so that I maintain control. Okay, so that's what I do. So not negotiable. Fuels predictable pipeline growth. So this is the other thing. So we've got conversion rates here, we've got marketing over here, we've got revenue targets. We've got the size of the job tells us, how many jobs that we've got to do per year. All of a sudden, the mechanical math is starting to create for us some clarity around what the possibilities. Now, if this is you, right, and you think 350 is me to, 10,000, I'm going to do all these jobs, but 350. What you can do, you can actually extrapolate the data out and go, every year I'm going to increase the size of the business by 20%. Okay, so I'm going to grow the business by 20. Once you're confident in these initial forecast numbers, right, you know what marketing you got to spend, you know what your conversion rates are, what you can actually do is you say, well, one day I will be $1 million business. Or in 72 months, I just about guarantee you, as the day is long, that I will be $1 million business. Or I will be a $10 million business. Because that's what I do. See, it's not an accident. You don't just wake up and go, oh, wow, I've got $1 million business, or wow, I've got a $10 million business. Unless you bought it. And then even then it's questionable, because can you run it? Can you sustain it? Can you hold its position in the marketplace? That's always the question. So, we've got up here, we've got established a revenue target. Well, that's pretty easy. However, then we get down here into the mathematical, mechanical side of the business, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, not 100% sure. Now, the last thing is limitations and the why. So revenue goals reveal constraints in leadership, capital, systems, and manpower. Isn't it interesting how that you go, oh, I want this $1 million, $10 million business. So when I think about a $10 million business, all I think about is lack of leadership in my part, lack of capital, the money that I don't have, inadequate systems in my business, and the lack of manpower in my life to do that. That's what's setting that revenue target. It's not just kind of a fairy number that you just go, oh. Now, the bigger the number, the bigger the challenges, the higher you rise, the sharper the knives, all that kind of business. But what you've got to be conscious of, it's healthy to set that goal, because then you realize, you go, you know what, let's not do $1 million. How about we start at 350 and we calculate our average contract value, our numbers of jobs, make sure our marketing spend is applicable to reaching that goal, and then look at maintaining maybe our conversion rates are better. I don't know. Important to know the details. So you have to mature as a leader, and if you want the business growth to be sustained and not to be a one-hit wonder, okay? None of us want to be a one-hit wonder. Without a strong reason why. So let's talk about that. This here, okay? Because it's like, I don't need to know that just because I've got nothing else to do. What I'm essentially saying is, what is your why? What I'm really asking you is, what are you going to fall back on or lean on or get inspired by when the shit gets difficult? Because I'm telling you right now, mate, every day is a challenge. I mean, I've said it before, it's a combat sport. You don't get out of this thing smelling like roses. Trust me on that, okay? Revenue targets become ego-driven rather than strategic. You just go and talk. I hate it. People just talk. They've been, classic in the world of rock and roll. These little micro bands, right? Me and my bandmates have got no desire to do anything but play in this valley and just play punk rock and grunge and have a good time and pick up a few dollars and, a bit of a drink along the way. Just for something to do, But I hear bands saying, oh, we're putting out an album next year, and it never comes about. Oh, we're going on tour. They just talk a big game. And I sit there, and sometimes I have the good fortune of being up close or have close proximity and see the reality of it and go, I've heard you say that from stage, and yet I know the backstory, and there's no freaking chance that the tour is going to happen. Now, do I think that they could eventually get a tour underway? I think they could, but it won't be next year. So I don't mind having a dream, but you need to bring it down to a position of reality. And that's only because, why is there such a big gap between what happens in reality and what is actually being talked about? The difference is they've not actually mapped it out. If they said to me, oh, we're going to go on tour in the year 2028 because that's how the growth scale or the trajectory of our band is going, respect. That sounds like a plan to me. We're going to release the album in 2 years. Hopefully after that, if everything goes according to the way we've got it mapped, this is the outcome. We'd probably go on tour across Canada after that, okay? Because when it gets hard, we quit. You're just like, screw this. See, because the commitment to your commitment was never in concrete. It was always in sand. It was always negotiable. You just like the kind of, I'm going to do this. You like that really basic moment in time where you just felt warm and fuzzy for 30 seconds. But when the real hardcore, hard-hitting reality of building business comes about, you're like, yeah, I'm not that serious. I'm pretty happy just working, hourly rate at a job for another builder. Well, nothing wrong with that. Just don't go and say you're going to be a gangster friggin' builder. Or if that is you and you go, but I really, really want to be, all right, well, now's the time to change. Get out your comfort zone. See, you and everybody needs a coach, which I think this is kind of evolving for me, because if I think back 10 years ago, I would have said, why did people get coaches? Well, having now got into the coaching world because of 50 plus emails from audience members like yourself that said, Max, would you coach me? Would you coach me? Would you coach me? Which happened to be in the prime of COVID. And then I got into that and I got accredited as a business coach and things like that. And, then I saw the behavior where they would talk a big game, but the actions would map elsewhere. And then I would listen to the bullshit that would come out of their mouth about why they couldn't do it. Like, the drama is just phenomenal, because they're just not serious. And I'm not standing here because I got shit to do, I'm not standing here mouthing off to you because I've got nothing else to do. I'm just hoping to put a stone in your shoe that you go to bed tonight or you wake up tomorrow morning and you go, you know what? I am the challenge in my business right now. My lack of education, that's where the challenge lies. So growth often feels like chicken and the egg, okay? But commitment forces your capacity and your capability to expand. I've got boys that love going to the gym and I don't. The wife goes to the gym, I don't. But they're all about eating protein and no carbs and, protein shakes and going to the gym twice a day and all that bull. And it's just like they're so committed to pushing the weight because they know that's what breaks the muscle down, which creates more mass. So resistance builds muscle mass. If you want to build bigger muscle, if you want to build a bigger business, you got to go to the gym. You got to push the weight. You got to get uncomfortable. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I hope it's resonating. Look, if you got something out of these podcasts, send me an email. Just give me a pat in the back. I got to know. I know that there is, thousands of, downloads that happen on this show every month. But encourage me by giving me that epiphany that you've had. It's like, mate, really, it was, understand this is tough love, okay? I know it's pretty gritty, it's pretty full on. I'm not very good at sugarcoating, but I love living in the world of reality, and I love it when people bully through the hard times in their life and they make it work. I love to hear those stories. You will do what it takes if you want it bad enough. And I don't know that you wake up and go, right, I want it bad enough. I think over time you develop the thick skin and the resilience to have the desire and the inspiration to become a better player, so that when the hard times come and you've got a clear reason why you're doing what you're doing and you're ready to execute and learn from the punches in the head, I think that at that point you're on your way. You're not guaranteed success in anything, but I think there is pattern recognition. When I see successful guys in the business, it's all about doing it and failing forward. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. When they don't, they assess, they don't sit on it, they don't beat themselves up. They go, okay, we should have done this, let's go forward again, okay? That's the secret to success, I think. Your statistics don't just measure your business, okay? They measure your readiness to grow. Because if you measure that stuff, it's going to tell you, hey, what's your conversion rate like? Oh, my conversion rate's like 5%, okay? Well, I don't get enough leads to even get anywhere near 350 grand. I'll see your marketing sucks. How much are you spending on marketing? None, nothing. Well, there's a problem. See, you're setting yourself up to get beat up. But in the beating, you will learn. You will learn. You'll go, okay, that statistic has got to change. All I'm doing with you right now, other than maybe giving you a hard time a little bit, is simulating some stress in your life that you are going to find out in the field where it actually costs you money, not sitting in your lounge room or at the gym running the treadie or walking around the hardware store. There's no stress there. But I tell you what, when you've got money on the line, you're soon going to figure out that, it's like the Navy SEALs, right? And of course, some of you know that I've got a loose mental arrangement with a retired Navy SEAL. And, those boys that sit in that cold water at 2 o'clock in the morning on the beaches of California, I mean, they're just trying to break them. Break. They don't need a loose cannon in the field. They need someone who can assess the situation, that is a team player, that's got leadership, that pays attention to detail, okay, and can really handle themselves despite the environment being less than comfortable. Because once they get out in the field, they know they're trying to simulate stress. They're trying to figure out who is actually committed to the mission and who is not, who is just showing up because they think it's a good idea, who's not truly in love with the process, okay? And so you've got to be a student of the business, understand this. There is no real destination. You know, I could get to 10 million in the next 5 years. Now what do? Who knows? I'm not thinking about that yet. What I'm thinking about is hitting that goal in 5 years. So run with me. Certainly, as you know, if you are to become an Elite Business Advisory one-on-one coach, you will get everything that I've got. You will hear all of the stories above and beyond what you get on the podcast here for half an hour a week. And, you know, I think it's going to absolutely change the way that you see business, the way you understand business, the way you're educated around business, and certainly increase the level of potential in your life as a general contractor or a builder. Like and subscribe, Max at EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. I appreciate you hanging with me thus far. That was a bit of a hot and heavy one. Get across to Business for Builders. There's an open group there, but you can get into the Business for Builders VIP. If you just answer the 3 questions, I'll let you in. Get across to EliteBusinessAdvisory.com/academy. Get into the Contractor Academy. Tell yourself that you've got the chops and you've got the commitment to the commitment. And, you know, we'll see you on the other side. So go build that kick-ass business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.